Journey to the West is one of China's classic novels. It follows the tale of the Buddhist monk Xuanzang on his journey to India to obtain the Buddhist scriptures. He is accompanied by three magical characters that protect him on his journey, including the famous Monkey King Sun Wukong. The book has become even more famous with the TV shows and movies that have been made based on the story in the past few decades, the most classic of which is the 1986 version from mainland China. And then there is an additional set of 16 episodes released in the year 2000, with most of the same cast, crucially Liu Xiaolingtong playing the Monkey King. Now, for a while, I have wanted to do a video where I read the entire Journey to the West book in Chinese and give you the full story. I remember there was a guy who did that on YouTube, but he read the children's version of the book, but I wanted to do it with the original. So I bought the whole set of books in the original kind of semi-classical Chinese that it was written in, but unfortunately, my progress was just too slow. I was enjoying reading it, but it was just taking too long because I was always having to look up words that I hadn't seen before. So instead, I went and watched the entire 1986 version, which is like the complete story, and the 2000 version, which is additional little episodic stories that were skipped in the original 1986 season 1, which together comprise 41 episodes in Chinese, modern Chinese, thankfully. And I'm going to give you the whole story. We will go through the origin of the Monkey King, how he learns his skills, the Tang monk setting out on his journey, finding the Monkey King and his other two disciples, the 81 tribulations that he goes through on the way, and finally obtaining the scriptures from the Buddha and returning to China. This is the entire Journey to the West story in one video. So Journey to the West is supposedly written by Wu Cheng'en, who was born around the year 1500, so in the Ming Dynasty. It is thought that the novel built on folk stories of the time about the real monk Xuanzang, who did actually go to India in the Tang Dynasty to get the Buddhist scriptures. So whether Wu Cheng'en actually came up with every episodic story in the book himself is up for debate. Probably some of the adventures that the Tang monk goes through come from the folk tales, but he wrote it all down in very creative language, so creatively it certainly is a complete work with a huge amount of original elements. The book can be split into several clearly defined sections. Let's go through them now. Chapters 1 to 7 are an introduction to the character of the Monkey King. It starts with talking about how there was a stone egg that was weathered by the forces of nature, and from it emerged a monkey.
Elemental forces caused the egg to hatch. From it then came a stone monkey.
If you're wondering, that was part of the intro to Monkey, a Japanese TV adaptation of the book. So Monkey at first is just playing around with the other monkeys at a place called Huaguoshan, or the Mountain of Flowers and Fruit. The monkeys follow a stream to find the source of the water and come to a waterfall where the water cascades down like a curtain. Behind this waterfall is Shuilian Dong, or the Water Curtain Cave. The other monkeys basically dare our stone monkey to jump through the water, and if he comes back to tell the tale, they will serve him as their king. So of course our monkey does it and discovers a paradise inside the cave, and when he comes out they really do adopt him as their leader. That is how he becomes the Monkey King. They introduce the name Mei Hou Wang, the beautiful Monkey King, right in the first chapter of the book. So he has a carefree life as the king of these monkeys, but then realizes the reality of mortality. Thus, the Monkey King develops a desire to learn spiritual cultivation. So he travels far and wide looking for a teacher, and after 8 or more years, finds a Taoist master. He convinces this master to teach him, and the master gives him a name.
从今往后，你就叫孙悟空。
With the surname being Sun, and the first name Wukong, meaning enlightened to emptiness. Wukong is very insistent about learning the way to cultivate eternal life from the master, so much that the master gets frustrated with him and hits him 3 times with a stick. But this actually is a test of the monkey's enlightenment. He suspects the master wants him to sneak out to the master's room at the 3rd watch at night for him to secretly teach him the Tao, and his hunch is of course correct. He stays with the master for several years, attains immortality, and learns something called the 72 transformations and the somersault cloud technique to travel across great distances. He then goes back to the mountain of flowers and fruit and vanquishes demons there. After that, he goes down to the bottom of the sea and steals a weapon called Ruyi Jinggu Bang from the Dragon King at the bottom of the sea. He also goes down to the underworld and erases his name and the names of all his monkeys from the ledgers of hell. After this, the king of the underworld and the Dragon King from the bottom of the sea complain to the Jade Emperor, who is the highest deity in the three realms in the Chinese pantheon of gods. If you haven't seen our Chinese gods video, check it out. It looks like this and explains all of the Chinese gods and their different levels and what they do. I'll put it on the end screen of this video. So because of all this, the gods invite Sun Wukong up to heaven, since he has the powers of an immortal anyway. And they give him a low-level title of an official that looks after the horses, and think that they have found a solution. But the monkey quickly realizes that this is one of the lowest titles in heaven, and he protests. He goes back down to the mountain of flowers and fruit. Then the gods send an army after him. But by this time, the arrogant monkey has come up with a new name for himself.
你来看，我要做个齐天大圣。
That's right, 齐天大圣, the great sage equaling heaven. Now, leading the army that goes after him are Tuota Tianwang and his son Ne Zha. Yep, the same Ne Zha as in the Chinese movie that came out a few months ago. Anyway, they are unsuccessful at capturing him, so the gods change their tactics and they decide to play along with the Monkey King, and they say, okay, we'll appoint you Qi Tian Da Sheng, the great sage equaling heaven, and the plan is to just keep him living in heaven with no responsibility and this empty title so that he'll just stop interfering with what's going on Earth. Once in heaven, though, the gods realize it doesn't really work having the great sage equaling heaven idle with nothing to do. He just makes trouble. So the Jade Emperor assigns him to watch the peach garden that belongs to the Queen Mother of the West, Xi Wangmu. This doesn't work out that well, however, as he ends up eating all the peaches. Maybe he was listening to 90s music on a Walkman or something.
Moving to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches.
Anyway, this ruins the Queen Mother of the West's peach banquet.
怎么这么小？娘娘，蟠桃园的大桃都被齐天大圣偷吃光了。
And he ruins it further by eating all the food and drinking all the wine, and then he steals the pills of immortality. But after all this bad behavior is found out, the gods again do battle with him. After he is captured, he gets punished. And now, the higher level gods are starting to get involved. First, Bodhisattva Guanyin comes down to the three realms, and the gods put him in the 8 trigrams furnace. But he is unharmed by this, amazingly, and once he gets out of the furnace, he just creates more havoc, so the gods seek help from the Buddha. And then you get the famous scene where the monkey flies off and lands somewhere where he thinks there are 5 pillars, and he relieves himself on one of these pillars, but they are actually just the Buddha's fingers, and he hasn't even left the Buddha's palm. The Buddha then traps him under a mountain where he is contained. And so that is the end of the first 7 chapters in the original book. But it seems the Buddha and the Bodhisattva had a plan for the monkey, because we now get into the Tang monk leaving on his journey to find the scriptures in India. In the book, there is more content about how the Tang monk is picked by the Bodhisattva to be the one to go, but in the TV show, a lot of that is skipped, and we just see him getting gifted a special kasaya or jiasha, which is a monk's robe, and then he gets sent off by Emperor Tang Taizong. In the next few chapters of the book, we see the Tang monk setting off on his journey and meeting his 3 disciples, the first of which is the Monkey King. So when the Tang monk passes where the Monkey King is trapped under a mountain on his way to obtain the scriptures in India, the Monkey King immediately calls out to him, 师父 or master, and he explains everything.
师傅，我是500年前大闹天宫的齐天大圣，只因犯了天宫，被佛祖压在这里。
He goes on to tell the monk about the mission the Bodhisattva has given him.
是观音菩萨叫我拜你为师的。
And the Tang monk is then able to break the spell, and the monkey is released, and accompanies him on his journey. Shortly after this, the Tang monk's horse is eaten by a white dragon. We'll say more about that in a moment. The mischievous nature of the monkey, though, has not totally changed, and shortly after this, he leaves and abandons the Tang monk. At this time, the Bodhisattva gives the Tang monk a ring to put on the monkey's head and a spell which will make the ring get tighter and tighter, giving him immense pain. Tang monk tricks the monkey into putting it on by hiding it in a hat. He then says the spell, and the monkey gets hit with severe pain and is subdued back into the service of the monk. The Bodhisattva also transforms the white dragon into a human form and then into a new horse for the Tang monk to ride. So this horse is known as Bai Long Ma, the white dragon horse, and they continue on their journey. Then in chapter 19, they find the next disciple, Zhu Ba Jie, or Pigsy. So at this time, the Tang monk and the Monkey King are already on their journey to the west, where they are faced with multiple demons trying to stop them. All these demons seem to know that eating the flesh of the Tang monk will grant them longevity, and thus they are constantly after him. The next disciple, Pigsy, is introduced in chapter 19. Basically, he is this guy who was originally a great heavenly general called Tianpeng Yuan Shuai, but he has an issue with lust. He gets a little too excited upon seeing the goddess Chang'e dancing at the heavenly banquet, and after it's all over and she's walking home alone, he tries something creepy with her. Actually, I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to do here. Maybe get her number, perhaps? I keep expecting him to pop the Joey Tribbiani line.
Hey, how you doing?
But anyway, this does not fly with the Jade Emperor. You cannot chat up girls in heaven, or even just go and smile at girls. Anyway, he orders Tianpeng Yuan Shuai to be banished down to the earth. On the earth, he is born with a hideous pig face, but he does have some supernormal abilities, and he is able to change his form temporarily. But his nature hasn't changed, and he uses this to pursue his lustful ambitions. First, saving a girl from being kidnapped, which leads to him marrying her, still in his transformed state, so he looks like a normal guy. He then fights off bandits again at the wedding, which leads to people liking him even more, but then he gets drunk. In his drunken state, he has trouble maintaining his transformed appearance, and his hideous pig face returns. He is then chased out, but he comes back and kidnaps the girl anyway. So he's actually a guy with some pretty evil intentions if you really think about it. He deceives everyone, kidnaps a young girl, and then what was he going to do to her? Well, luckily this is ancient China, so he was probably just going to hold her hand and be incredibly satisfied with it. But anyway, they never get to that part because Monkey King saves the day, subduing this pig demon, and he joins them on their journey. This is all arranged by the Bodhisattva to have these characters atone for past sins by helping the Tang monk on his quest. Zhu Ba Jie, however, is one character that, although he makes a contribution, and a big contribution at that, he doesn't fully change his nature. He's still a little too into girls, even right at the end of the story. But more on that later. Let's now look at how Tang monk meets his final disciple, Sha Wujing, or Sandy, in chapter 22. So Sha Wujing is his name. Sha is his surname, which means sand, hence the English nickname Sandy, and his given name means enlightened tranquility. You can also refer to him as Sha He Shang, or the Sand Monk. He once broke a jade vase in heaven and is thus sent down to the earth.
只因我在蟠桃会上失手打碎了琉璃盏，未变下界来，只好在这流沙河做了妖怪。
In order to cross the river, Pigsy fights him, but then he escapes into deep water. Pigsy suggests that the Monkey King should go down after him, but this exposes Sun Wukong's one weakness. He is not good at going underwater.
老孙不如你。
Although he went to the bottom of the ocean before, so I don't really get that part. Maybe he doesn't do well in fresh water. I don't know. Anyway, Pigsy goes down there and fights him, but in the end, the Bodhisattva sends a representative to tell Sha Wujing that his mission is to help the Tang monk journey to the west and get the scriptures, and he thus joins the quest.
悟净，还不快来拜见师傅？
啊，师傅。
Crossing the river in chapter 22 is kind of like a boundary in the story, since the other side of that river is apparently a new continent, and now Tang Monk's team is complete. So what happens next? Well, they have to cross a vast wilderness to get to India. This covers basically chapters 23 to 86 in the original book and features 24 different episodic stories where they encounter different demons who want to eat the Tang monk's flesh.
西天取经的唐僧上山来了。
好，吃了唐僧肉，益寿有延年。
There are women who want to marry the monk, and other women who want to seduce the monk and his party. Pigsy actually fails one of these types of tests along the way. Then there's the time they drink the water in a place called Woman Kingdom and become pregnant. There's the battle with the so-called Red Child.
请他们来吃唐僧肉。是。
Anyway, I can't cover all of it, but basically the theme of the story is tribulations told in episodic form. Then in chapter 87 of the original book, they finally make it to the border of India. And there are more tribulations and adventures until they finally make it to Vulture Peak, where they meet the living Buddha. They each receive heavenly titles.
封你为论坛功德佛，加封你为斗战胜佛。
多谢佛祖。
So the Tang monk and the Monkey King both reach enlightenment and become Buddhas. But what about the others? Well, while Monkey King really changed his nature, Pigsy never really got it. He was still chasing girls and messing around until the end. Although he did make a big contribution, he didn't really spiritually cultivate. So the Buddha gives him a participation trophy.
我八戒是什么佛呀？你入我沙门，可做个净坛使者。
Right, so basically they let him be a cleaner. But a cleaner in the heavens, okay? It's got to be better than being a cleaner on earth. And you get to eat lots of delicious food in heaven, which Pigsy seems very happy with. But it is a lower level title. Then there is Sha He Shang.
沙悟净为金身罗汉，谢佛祖。
He becomes an arhat, which is considered a heavenly attainment status, or guowei, the first level outside the three realms, below Bodhisattva and Buddha. So now, in the final chapter, chapter 100, they have got their scriptures and their honorary titles from the Buddha. They are then allowed to ride back to China on a supernatural cloud instead of walking. But there is a problem.
唐玄奘一路经历了多少劫难？
整整80难。
佛门中久久归真，还少一难。
对，带弟子做法。
Right, it needs to be 998难, 9 times 9, 81 tribulations. In these Asian mystical traditions, the number 9 is very important, so it needs to be a multiple of 9. So they get one more on the way home. They fall out of the sky, ending up at a river where they luckily, meet a turtle that helped them cross this river before on the way. But that turtle had asked them to ask the Buddha in India a question, and the Tang monk and his friends had completely forgotten about it, which makes the turtle angry and he pushes them into the water. All the scriptures fall in and get wet. At first, it seems like the thing they've tried so hard to obtain is ruined, but then they realize they can just dry them in the sun, and they do so on a rock, which then becomes known as Shai Jing Shi, or the Drying Scriptures Rock. They then fly back on a cloud and are greeted by the emperor, and the story is complete. Well guys, that was the entire Journey to the West story in one video. I know I didn't go into detail on individual tribulations that they went through, but the video would have to be like 5 hours long if that was the case. But this gives you an outline of the story and many of its key parts and turning points. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put some other videos on screen now that have a connection to Journey to the West for you to check out. If you want to support our work, please join as a member for $4.99 a month. It's really just like buying us a coffee each month, but we really appreciate it if you support us. You can also subscribe to our channel for free, and you can see all our public videos every week. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.